Ross. She was one of our founding members, and she passed away this November. I believe it was in November. And we just wanted to pay a special tribute to her because she did amazing work for this organization, amongst many other things. I remember reading her obituary, and it was pretty impressive over her lifetime, what she accomplished, and was recognized highly for being involved in this organization. She was a president for 4 years. I think she served on the board another 4 as well, and was always active and a generous contributor to our organization. So we have a couple of folks, Rich Bashant, Larry Walbright, Buddy Glassstetter. You guys can just stand up if you like and say a word. Very informal, but just as a way to show appreciation, maybe share some thoughts or memories about them. Yeah, any way you guys want to do it, totally fine.
I'll say something first. Well, you've heard the story before, if you've heard me talk of it before, that Ruth and I share a fence line. And so that's how I got involved with Friends of Cateros. Is one day she was talking over the fence and said, you know, Richard, I have a job for you. And I was pulled right in. And you know, looking at the dates just reminds me, so on the year she was doing that was 2004. And so I was, you know, in my mid-30s, and Ruth was either 79 or 80. And she was starting this organization. And so, and I'll tell one little snippet and then I'll let you folks go, but the one funny for me was early on we were at Gray's Crossing kind of scoping it out, and I'm hiking with Ruth, and she's my elderly neighbor, so we were walking and we're coming to the steep part of the bank, and of course my instinct is to turn and like put my hand out like I could help her down the bank. And she gives me this look. And I wasn't sure what the look was, but I knew it was I wasn't doing something right. And she just gave me that look for about what seemed like a long time. And then she just walked around me and went down the slope on around me. And so that's Ruth. And so that's a little bit about you folks. I came on 2004. I came on a little later early with the board, but I wasn't part of the steering committee. And I think you guys were part of that, the origin. So
yep.
Yeah.
Yep. My name's Larry Walbright. I don't know everybody here, but it's nice to see you all. Just for context, I chaired the steering committee that Rich was just talking about back in 2004, and we put together the bylaws and the structure of the organization and all that kind of stuff. And in addition, I was the second president of the organization after Ruth. So I got to know Ruth pretty well in those contexts, but in another context, probably more important in getting to know Ruth, we also share a back fence. And
President, we gotta hold it that way.
Ruth and I, you're stepping on one of my lines. So Ruth and I were both avid gardeners, and we both spent inordinate amounts of time out in our yards. And our yards were separated by this chain link fence, so consequently we talked a lot. I got to know Ruth pretty well. And I think it's no exaggeration to say that this organization was started over that fence. Ruth and her husband Norman were both avid outdoors people. They hiked, they skied, they paddled. She was also a dedicated environmentalist. So in 2003 or early 2004, I don't remember which one, Ruth had an idea. And she grabbed me over the back fence and she said, we need an organization to clean up the Cateros and protect it moving forward. So I thought that was a pretty good idea too. And Ruth and I talked about it for a good long while, and then finally put together a steering committee and put together the organization. But I would point out, as Rich just said, 3 of our first 4 presidents share a same backyard fence. It really started out very local. So the board met at Ruth's dining room table for several years. The steering committee met either at my breakfast table or Bill Burnham's breakfast table. And Friends of the Cateros is very much Ruth's baby. She served as our first president for so long that some of us were starting to wonder if we should have put term limits into the bylaws. But she probably wondered if the organization would be able to make it without her. And to be honest, a lot of us in that era wondered if the organization would still be around 5 or 10 years down the road. And now here we are, 20 years later, with a big healthy crowd of people. So I guess Friends of the Cateros has survived, and I guess it has grown, and I guess it's spread beyond that backyard fence by a pretty good distance. So it's appropriate tonight for us to remember Ruth, to appreciate the things that she did for us. Friends of the Cateros is her legacy, and it's appropriate for us to remember her and remember everything she did. Her memory deserves our respect and our appreciation. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Buddy Blaster. I was the original treasurer of Friends of the Cateros. But before I tell you anything about myself, I want you to know my yard has no fences. So I don't know how Ruth got me into the original meeting. I think maybe Norman threw me under the bus because Ruth's daughter actually asked that we mention her dad in this presentation. And I met Norman way before I met Ruth. Norman actually had a little bit of the acting bug in him. And when I first moved to Boston Spa, there was a group in Boston Spa called the Spa Village Players. It plays every year, kind of like the Homemade Theater in Saratoga. Excuse me. And Norman came and tried out and got a part in one of their plays, and I was their treasurer. That's why I said I think Norman threw me under the bus. Ruth needed a treasurer, and I think Norman was the one that got it. But Ruth had a great ability of deciding who should do what and who's going to be good at it. And she just pulled people in, and more power to her. It certainly is her legacy, and she is the one that got this organization moving and kept it together. And I actually go back a little bit before Friends of the Cateros. In the beginning, I think Larry and Rich will collaborate this. Most of our events were in Kelly Park because it was the only place that would accommodate us. And I started with Kelly Park in 2000 when my daughter, who was in the Air Force, was sent to Saudi Arabia, and I got her husky and had to walk him every day. And so I was part of that puppy pen that's in Kelly Park. Silver, her husky, and I were in the news and everything for that, to get that in there. And so I was kind of connecting with the Cateros even before they started Friends of the Cateros, and that I appreciated its beauty and all that it had to offer down there. And another little tidbit is back when I first went to Boston Spa, I believe it was the Lions or one of those groups, every spring had a canoe race down the gate, which would be a nice event to bring back maybe. So, but as Larry said, this is her legacy, and here we are 20 years later, and it's really great organization. Thank you.
Yes, I was going to say, if there's someone that would like to share a
I'd
story,
like
I
to
appreciate it.
Yeah, my name is Dave Delius. Ruth was my mom.
Glad you were here.
And I would like to say how overwhelmed and gratified she would be to see this enormous turnout and to see how far this organization has come and to see what a solid ongoing community service organization it turned into. I'm sensing enthusiasm here. I'm sensing dedication to all the work that you do, following along from what she did. So this is a wonderful tribute that you're making tonight. And if I could just add a little history.
Sure.
Yes.
My mom's association with the creek started in about the 1950s, mid-50s, shortly after the family moved to Ballston Spa in '53. And we would go swimming at 8-foot hole on hot days in the summer. And about a year after that, the family got a canoe, and my dad took me fishing from Rock City Falls down the creek. I didn't catch anything, but we had so much fun paddling that we just kept going, left the fishing pole at home. And my mom got into that paddling thing, paddling the creek from Rock City Falls, eventually all the way down to Factory Village, and then past there, down to the chocolate factory. And caught the bug at that point. And it kind of went to hiatus for quite a few years, but never really went away. And her dedication to the creek was consistent with, as you folks were saying, her commitment as a conservationist, as an environmentalist, as a person who cared about the outdoors. Her ability to draw you all together and make something formal out of it and then have it continue was part of her personality, part of who she was. So again, on behalf of the family, thank you very much for this dedication, and I'd love to talk to any of you after the meeting. So,
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.